The recent Saudi Arabian Grand Prix was a thrilling affair. Formula 1 fans from around the world witnessed an epic high-speed duel in the desert in which Max Verstappen emerged victorious. Here are our good, bad, and ugly moments of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. The good. Sergio Perez grabs pole. There aren't many drivers on the F1 grid who are more universally loved than Sergio Perez. The Mexican Minister of Defense produced an incredible lap on Saturday to put his car in front of the grid for Sunday. This was Sergio's first pole in 215 races, the longest wait in F1 history. On Sunday, he started the race strong and he led more laps, 14, than he did in any race last year, 13. But ultimately, his run came to an end and he eventually ended up in P4 following a pit stop and a virtual safety car by Nicholas Latifi. The bad. Dangerous track. Ever since the FIA planned to introduce this new street circuit, there have been complaints about it, with Red Bull boss Christian Horner comparing this track to Suzuka with walls. During qualifying, we saw two massive accidents of Nicholas Latifi and Mick Schumacher. The drivers were alright in both of them, and in Mick's case, he had to be sent to a hospital, but then he was given an all clear. Since the Formula 1 race was last held over here 4 months ago, there had been several changes made to the circuit. Corners were opened up to allow drivers better lines of sight while exiting the corner. However, Carlos Sainz pointed out that since drivers were moving closer to the wall, the line of sight didn't actually improve. I was commenting with Charles and they just moved the wall, but the driving line will still be closer to the wall, which means our visibility doesn't improve. Which for me just shows that we need to keep making this relationship with the FIA tighter, better, because we expect a step in the right direction. The good. Exciting racing. One thing that the FIA promised viewers with the new regulation was closer racing. Fans were bored of eras of dominance by manufacturers. This led the governing body to research a new set of rules. The new rules limited the amount of aero components on a car in order to promote closer racing. And safe to say, Formula 1 achieved just that. We saw great battles, right from battles in the midfield to battles for P1 between Max and Charles, to even battles to the finish line between Lando and Esteban Ocon. The bad, reliability. Only 13 cars reached the flag at the end of the Grand Prix, matching the lowest number of finishers in 2021. Throughout the weekend, cars struggled with temperature and other engine-related parameters. Yuki Tsunoda failed to even start the race after the AlphaTauri team decided not to run his car due to technical issues. In the span of one race lap, we even saw 3 cars retire. Mercedes struggled with the pace all weekend and 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton finished in P10. It's the first time he's ever finished in this specific position since Korea 2012. Keep in mind that Lewis Hamilton has never finished 11th in any race in his F1 career. The ugly. Literal missile attacks. There are times in your life when you stop and think to yourself, is it worth it? This was the question that all the drivers and team bosses were ultimately faced with when there were literal missiles being targeted around the city where the F1 track was. A few days before the F1 circus even arrived to Saudi Arabia, you had missiles that were being targeted at Saudi-owned Aramco facility. Aramco is the country's main oil and gas company and it was targeted by Yemen rebel groups. Aramco is also one of the main sponsors of Formula 1. According to Al Jazeera, the Yemen war began in September 2014 and the United Nations describes it as one of the world's worst humanitarian disaster. Tens of thousands of people have been killed in warfare, including many civilians. Formula 1 bosses, however, ultimately went ahead with the Grand Prix after a lengthy 4-hour meeting with the drivers and team bosses after they were assured of security by the Saudi Arabian government. That's all for now. Stay tuned to Forward Motorsports for all things motorsport related.